we become like, we are a failing nation. We've become a third world nation in many ways. They don't want to see their cities burned down. They don't want to see Antifa and BLM and all of this that takes place. And then the patriots, they go after the patriots. They go after people that love our country. You watch CBS Evening Fake News, you watch NBC Fake News, you watch ABC, you watch all of these networks, not only just CNN and MSDNC, you take a look at these networks, they rarely talk about things that are really the most important things, like the border, like election fraud, like voter ID, like so many of the things that you have to talk about. And the front row Joes get it, and they see it, and they do talk about it.
All right, guys, I am excited today to share with you a project that I have been working on for the last, I think it's been a couple years. I'm really excited. This is the first ever behind the scenes look at what I call the greatest political movement of all time. Now, I don't care if you don't like Trump. This is an explanation, a look, a deep dive into the people that make up the Trump movement. So if you're a Trump supporter, you're going to love this because it's taking you inside in a way that nobody else had. I had access that nobody has gotten. And frankly, I don't think anyone ever will because they trusted us to come in and tell their side of the story, get to meet them, go to their homes, and then sit down with President Trump. And you're going to see that whole uncut interview in just a few minutes. Donald Trump, for the first time ever, is going to sit down and talk about the movement, how it became, who these people are, what he thought of it at the time, what it's become, and where it goes. That's the other thing. Where does this go? I am intrigued by that, but this is the first time ever that anyone has done this. And it was a passion project for me, 2 years in the making. I'm so excited about this because it launches today. If you go to salemnow.com, you can check it out this weekend. You can check it out now. I don't really care. It's 2 episodes. Or you can go to frontrowjoes.movie, right? Not .com, .movie. Frontrowjoes.movie. There are 2 episodes. They're about 30 minutes apiece. It is, like I said, I am so proud of this piece of work. It is unbelievable. But today, what we are going to show you is when we sat down with President Trump, we sat down with him for a while talking about this movement of his, these people that support him. And we're going to show you the entire uncut interview, which I think is unbelievable because nowhere else are we going to see this. But if you like what you see here, you're going to want to go to salemnow.com and watch these 2 episodes. Like I said, even if you're a Trump hater, you've got to wonder, who are these people? They go to rally after rally after rally. They're always in the front row. They camp out for days. What makes them tick? Where do they live? What do they do for a living? All of that is covered in Trump's Front Row Joes. The movie that we launched today, Trump's Front Row Joes, is out today. And frontrowjoe.movie is the URL, the website where you can go check it out. So before that, let's take a look. I'll show you the trailer of the movie so you get a sense of what that's all about. Here we go.
From the backbone of the greatest political movement ever, the Front Row Joes, the foundation of the Trump faith. Who are they?
You had to love the United States of America, and you had to love Mr. Donald Trump and support Mr. Donald Trump's re-election.
And where do they go next? For the first time ever, a behind-the-scenes look into the energy that's changing the world. With Stephen K. Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Donald J. Trump.
They're incredible people. And the Front Row Joes are, in a certain way, I guess they're very successful people.
Friendships I've made over the years as a Front Row Joe, it's probably the best part of it.
Go to frontrowjoes.movie to experience the movement.
The kind of basis for all the rallies, and they've been, there's like dead fans.
So as you can see, it's Donald Trump. We're going to see the entire uncut interview in just a second. All of it, which you don't even see in the documentary, obviously, because that's not what the goal here is. But I wanted to give you, our audience, the full flavor of what he thinks beyond the couple clips that end up making it into the documentary. But you see in that movie, it's Steve Bannon talking about the movement. And remember, he was the chief architect in 2016, the strategist, the guy behind all this. He was the guy that, well before he took on that role officially at the campaign, was talking about Trump and the movement and getting Breitbart behind him. That's here. You're going to see it. And so I think you're going to want to do that. All right, folks, I want to tell you about my friends at Delta Rescue. If you're an animal lover like I am, someone who's rescued animals, then you want to go to deltarescue.org and check out the amazing work that they're doing. They've got these videos that show you what the founder, Leo Grillo, has created. Now, if you know about shelters, they take in all sorts of animals, but Leo takes in dogs, cats, horses. It doesn't matter. He loves all animals. And he gives them the veterinary care, the nutritional care that they need. And the beauty of what Delta Rescue has done is created a no-kill sanctuary for life. It's not a shelter that's looking to place them. It's there to take care of these abandoned and neglected and hurt animals. The thing is, though, that Leo's legacy and mission can only continue if we help him. If you're an animal lover, someone who's rescued dogs and cats, or just a good person that likes animals, go to deltarescue.org and think about making a contribution. $100, $1,000, $10,000, who cares? Whatever you can afford. Because he does this because he loves it. And the other thing is, on that website, deltarescue.org is an estate planning kit. Please consider making Delta Rescue part of your estate so that Leo's mission of caring for these animals is an enduring one that lasts for generations and decades. Thanks for your consideration. All right. I want to tell you a little bit about this project before we get into it with President Trump. I was sitting in 2016 during the campaign. As many of you know my story, right? I was dual-hatted. I was at the RNC, and as Trump becomes the presumptive nominee, I started going up to New York at his request. I had been running the debates. I had gotten to know him pretty well. If you guys know anything about Donald Trump, he's not a wallflower. When he had a problem, he picked up the phone. And so I got to know him throughout the debate process because he'd pick up the phone and say, I don't like this. I don't like that. What are we doing here? And so I had kind of gotten to know him and his team. I was sort of the de facto liaison to him. And so as early as May, I was up in Trump Tower helping him coordinate some media strategies and some press conferences, et cetera. We had started to develop a relationship. I had started to go to some of these rallies and events. And when you go to a Trump rally, and the beautiful thing about this documentary is it takes you inside. If you've never been, this is one more reason why you want to see this, okay? We take you inside of these people, and I'd heard about it for a while. Who were these people that were going to rally after rally, treating it, and you'll hear this in the documentary, he even brings it up in the interview, President Trump does. There was like a rock band, people who go see the same band over and over again. And you kind of start to wonder, who are these people? I had conversations with journalists all the time about Trump's paths to 270, how he could win. Here's what we saw. Here's what we didn't see. Here's what the data was telling us. And a lot of these journalists would say, we don't buy it. We don't hear it in the Acela corridor. I don't see it at the grocery store when I hang out with the other journalists who talk to themselves. When we watch MSNBC and listen to segments, we don't see it. Hillary Clinton's going to crush you guys. You guys aren't organized. You're not running a traditional campaign. You can't possibly do this. And yes, it was unorthodox. But as I'm looking around and I'm talking to our data guys, I'm like, wow, look at these people coming out of the woodwork that normally don't do this. You'll hear me talk about it in the documentary. But when you normally hold a rally, and maybe it's even at the congressional level, but definitely up to the presidential, you kind of put out the word. Maybe you take radio ads, you send direct mail, send emails. Hey, Candidate X coming to the fairgrounds Friday night, 8:00. And then you would kind of push because you needed to develop a crowd. I remember Romney in Ohio at the end, we had a bunch of bands, Kid Rock. I think John Rich was there. I have some pictures back in the day. It was kind of cool. But we had advertised for it. You think about it, Kid Rock, John Rich, you would go anyway. We had advertised. Trump sends out a single tweet back in the day and tens of thousands of people would show up to hear the guy talk. And it wasn't just that they showed up days in advance, camping out. I was so intrigued by this. I had never seen anything like this in politics. The rule book, the game plan, all being rewritten right there. And so I started to talk to these reporters and they were like, that's crazy. We don't see it. And I'm like, guys, I've been doing this for a while. I've never seen something like this before. And we're registering these people at rallies. We're getting the vote. They're motivated. These are new voters. We don't see it. And you guys remember what it was like on election night. these journalists crying, oh my God, Trump's going to win. I didn't see it coming. Because you didn't want to see it coming. Because you didn't listen. Because you didn't want to see the data. And you didn't care who these people were. You weren't wondering, gosh, why are these people going to rallies in a way that never been before? Because most reporters fly in. They think that showing up at the Iowa State Fair and having pork on a stick is getting to know voters outside the bubble. That's their idea of research, right? That's not what's happening, though, with the Trump base. And this documentary, Trump's Front Row Joes .movie, if you want to check it out again, you saw the trailer, go to salemnow.com. You'll hear Bannon and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mercedes Schlapp, others, so many people, and reporters themselves say, gosh, we didn't see this. This was so different. And so I started having meetings after the election with reporters. And one of the executives from NBC said, we totally missed it. We missed this. No kidding, you missed it because you didn't want to see it. Okay? So they said, we're going to set up pop-up bureaus, basically in flyover country. You know what flyover country is? Places that liberals don't go. And that was their way of trying to say, gosh, we missed it, but we want to hear about you and your prayers and your guns and all these things that we don't actually talk about or see. School choice, family values. We don't see that in our liberal enclaves when we hang out with each other and watch MSNBC. We don't hear about things that aren't DEI and ESG and all these other things that we care about. We don't hear about your values. I saw the relationship that Trump had with these folks. Anyway, fast forward, let me just tell you how this thing goes. We're down in Florida. I'm with a bunch of guys from the 2016 campaign, and I'm talking about this. How amazing, how historic. And a lot of them said, the same thing. Gosh, I've been working on campaigns for a while. I'd never seen something like this. And I said, if we don't document it, for so many people, they think this is normal. They think a candidate sends out a tweet and people come on our side, at least, because as you know, and it's funny, you'll hear Trump say this in a minute when I play the Trump interview coming up. He talks about Bernie Sanders having a few thousand people and them being completely, oh my gosh, wow. And look at Trump, tens of thousands of people. People spending the night. In one part in the documentary, we go to a rally in Pennsylvania. It's pouring rain. Pouring. And I'm not talking just for that day. It had been for days on end. And you will see the mud that people are tranching through. And they don't care. They're like, okay, cool. We'll hang out in this. I'm telling you, folks, watch this and share it. Go to salemnow.com and check out Trump's Front Row Joes. Or you can, like I said, the URL, the website for it is frontrowjoes.movie. Check it out. You are going to be blown away. So anyway, I'm telling these folks, I said, guys, we got to document this. We have to show people what really happened. And sure enough, we started to have these conversations about what it would be like. We started reaching out to the Front Row Joes, this group of people that you will see in there that would go to rally after rally after rally, travel the country, sleep in their cars, for days on end, maybe get a hotel, but they're spending their time and their money going to Trump rallies. Now, for me, I never went to one, but it evoked the sense of people who used to follow the Grateful Dead. They'd go to concert after concert, days before, just to hang out, to commiserate with their friends about the music and the last playlist, etc. And you hear Trump. I asked him about this in the interview that you're about to see with Donald Trump. I asked him, how do you make it different? And he gives you his explanation. I'll leave it for that because he has a really interesting way of couching it. Because how much can you change a rally? Not that much, right? I mean, I'll let him say it so that I don't. So let me tee this up for you. So we start following these folks around. I called the president. I said, hey, look, we've been doing this project. I've been talking to his team. I'd like to sit down with you. He says, come on down to Mar-a-Lago. We go down to Mar-a-Lago. I talked to him for a while about these people, the movement, where it goes from here, what it meant to him. You're going to hear all of that. And like I said, the tape's just going to roll. We didn't edit this at all. This is Trump giving his raw take on everything that's happening. And you'll see, it's obviously not we did a lot more post-production editing, as you saw in the trailer for the documentary. So I want you to see all that. But I wanted to show you the raw footage of the interview with Trump because you won't see it anywhere else. This is an exclusive to you, the viewers of this show. But then you're going to see so much more. It's not just Trump. Like I said, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mercedes Schlapp, various reporters, Steve Bannon. They're going to show you, give you their take when you actually go see the movie. So before we get to this interview with President Trump, I want to tell you about one more sponsor of ours, and then you're going to see the interview with Donald Trump completely uninterrupted. The whole interview with Donald Trump, straight to finish, no editing, no commentary, no nothing. You are going to hear his views on this movement, on these people. Before I do that, I want to tell you about my friends at 4Patriots, because unexpected things happen in life. You know that. And at some point, unfortunately, many of us are going to experience a loss of power. Maybe it's a storm, a power outage caused by a hurricane or a natural disaster. Maybe it's an attack on our power grid. It doesn't matter. But literally right to my right, sitting here, I have the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. I am ready. My family is ready. God forbid something happens, we can go. I can power the fridge. I can power medical devices, computers, phones, all the things that I need. And it's portable, so I can bring it anywhere. I can help a family member or a friend out. It runs on a solar panel that comes free with it. Now, you've heard me talk about this before. In the past, if you have a generator, you got to find gas for that. Then you got to hope that the gas station is open. And then every few hours, you got to go out, refill it. And when I did this once before, I had a gas generator, you had to time it, right? Because I knew maybe it would go off if I slept. You only get so many hours. The Patriot Power Generator runs on these solar panels that come free with it for hours on end. And it's just the sun you need. You can bring it inside, no fumes, no noise. It's amazing, completely portable. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer, 4patriots.com/Spicer. You will check this out. It is unbelievable. But don't get caught in a time of emergency without one. 4patriots.com/Spicer. All right, without further ado, let me show you the uncut, unedited, a complete interview with Donald J. Trump, the former president of the United States. If you want to see the full documentary, again, go to salemnow.com or frontrowjoes.movie. Without further ado, President Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, tell me about the Front Row Joes. When did you come to realize that you had this following?
It was right at the beginning, and we started the rallies, and we noticed there are certain groups of people that were just in love with what I was saying, but really in love with the country. And they were just incredible people, tremendous spirit, tremendous everything. And then I said, wasn't that group, this was early on because we've done many rallies and they've been getting bigger and bigger. And I said, weren't they here last week? Weren't they here last week? Weren't they here last week? And all of a sudden you began to realize that literally every rally, I think every rally they attend, and they have a lot of fun, but I think more than anything else, they love the country.
So when you got into politics, you went this sort of untraditional route. You were like, I'm going to hold big rallies. Did you expect the same people to be coming in a lot of cases, or did you think, as I went to each city, it's just all going to be a new group of people?
Well, we have a lot of people that do come to a lot of rallies. We have a group of women that are unbelievable women from North Carolina, and they have gone to, I think, 97 rallies. And in this case, they're very well-to-do. Everything is like, they're always so beautifully groomed. You take a look at the way they are, the dresses, everything, and you notice them right away. And they go to so many different rallies. They're incredible people. And the Front Row Joes are, you know, in a certain way, I guess they're very successful people because it's not easy to do this, right? You travel all over the place, but they're fantastic people. They have incredible spirit. We love them. We take care of them. We help them get in the front row, frankly. You know, when they, after about the 20th rally, we said, why should they be waiting all the time? But we actually said, you could come a little bit later. They like to get there 3-4 days early. They'll pitch a tent. They'll wait. They'll listen to the great music, and it becomes an event. It becomes a little like before a football game. You know what goes on before a football game. So it's really been something.
It was funny. We were talking to a bunch of them this morning. They were saying how honored they were to be part of your re-election kickoff. And they said, when we got to Mar-a-Lago, our names were on the chairs, and there we were right behind the family. Tell me why you guys made that decision, and how important was it to have them as prominent as they were?
Because they're special, and because they love our country beyond all else. I think they really like me a lot, but I think they see that I'm the one that can fix it. And I did fix it, you know, better than anybody. We had the greatest economy in history. We had the strongest border we've ever had. We had the lowest drug rate, drugs coming in 32 years. Think of it. And now it's 10 times higher than it was just 2 years ago. And people are flooding our country from mental institutions, from prisons. They're dumping everybody into the U.S. And they see all of this, and other people do too. I really believe that even though the fake news media, which is pretty prevalent, but even though the fake news media doesn't talk about it too much, they didn't like to talk about the Afghanistan disaster. After 1 or 2 days, you never heard anything about it. The most embarrassing day in the history of our country. They don't talk about the border. You watch CBS evening fake news, you watch NBC fake news, you watch ABC, you watch all of these networks, not only just CNN and MSDNC, you take a look at these networks, they rarely talk about things that are really the most important things, like the border, like election fraud, like voter ID, like so many of the things that you have to talk about. And the front row Joes get it, and they see it, and they do talk about it. You know, they're all over the internet. I don't know if you've ever seen, but they are over the internet more than anything you've ever seen. And Truth Social has become a very important factor. I think this is the place where everybody wants to be. If you look at what's happened to the competitors, they're gone now, pretty much gone. In fact, many of them are coming to work for us, and it's been beautiful. And Twitter's way down. So I think Truth Social is the hot one. That's the place people want to be.
So when you get on that stage, number one, for someone like you that's been in the public eye, done big TV shows, A, do you still get a thrill? And B, how do you make it unique so that the front row Joe who's been to a few rallies or 10, 20 rallies has a different experience?
Well, somebody explained it when there is a certain something that's great or that they want to hear. You know, you have people that follow the rock bands and they listen to the same songs over and over and over, and they like them more 5 years later than they did before. You have people that go to the Mona Lisa. They love the Mona Lisa, and they'll see it hundreds and hundreds of times, and it gets better every time. A Broadway play where they'll see it 20 times. I mean, it's sort of an interesting thing. And it's basically the same 20 subjects that you're talking about. You know, if you're really talking, you're talking about the border, you're talking about the military, you're talking about low taxes, you're talking about, you know, certain things. I can't just make new things up because I want to make a speech different. I can tell them in different ways, and I do sometimes do that, a lot of times. But they just want to hear it again and again. And they put it out. They put it out like really nobody can put it out. But it's really been amazing. Nobody knew that rallies were going to be that. You were with me very early, Sean. I appreciate you did a fantastic job from day one. They like to beat you up as much as possible, but that didn't work out too well. Look, you even came out very well in the dance contest, and I wouldn't say that you were Fred Astaire, okay, to be honest with you. I agree. You had a lot of support beyond the dancers, right, beyond dancing. But when you look at what's happened with these rallies, they're massive. We had 68,000 people in Alabama. We had 88,000 people in Texas. I mean, these are massive rallies. There's never been anything like it, actually. There's never been any, I don't think in any country, let alone, but in this country, if Ronald Reagan, who was excellent and a good guy, if he went out to do a rally, if they had 400 or 500 people in a ballroom of a hotel, that would be a nice crowd. And we're having 40, 50, 60, 70 and more, 1,000 people. Butler, Pennsylvania, 55,000 people. Any place I go in Florida, thousands of people beyond what the venue can hold. I mean, they have to cut them off. We have to take some ads, please do not come. We're actually advertising for people not to come. So there's never been anything like it. And the spirit is amazing. And as far as me, I have friends that say, how do you do that? How do you speak to so many people? It's very interesting. There's so much love in those arenas or those areas, or in many cases airports, because we fly in with a plane and we do it right in the airport, and it holds a lot of people. You have unlimited parking, and you have, 45, 50,000 people can stand there because you have so much room. So it really works out. And the plane is the backdrop oftentimes, whether it's Air Force One or my plane. And it's quite an amazing thing, but there's never been anything like it. Bernie Sanders used to have 2,000 or 3,000 people. Everybody would talk about, oh, these rallies are so great, so great. And they never turn the cameras on the crowd. They never do. I always talk about it. Why don't they turn the cameras? And I used to think it was the equipment, metal, steel, holding, and you can't turn it. And then I realized about 3 rallies in where they had a fight in the back of a rally, which very rarely happens, but anything bad. And all of a sudden they're turning it like a pretzel. It's like a pretzel, the way that steel was able to be turned, and they have, right on the 2 people that were having a problem or something. And I realized they could do it. And they don't want to do it. Fox doesn't want to do it. They never want to show the crowd. And it's exciting to show the big crowds. You guys show the crowds as much as you can, but it's exciting. And I never understood, why aren't they showing the crowds? They should be showing the crowds. But there's never been crowds like this. It's been incredible.
It's funny. I've talked to several of these folks. They will travel the country to see you for the umpteenth time. They are all in on everything that you've done. They want you to get reelected. How do you sort of maybe broaden that appeal as you've announced for reelection to say, okay, I got the front row Joes, I got all these people coming to a rally, but how do I grow that coalition?
Well, I think it is grown. I mean, I think we had the largest number of votes in the history of the presidency for a sitting president. We had 75 million votes. Nobody's ever had anything near that. The first time I had 63 million, I was told that if I get 63 million, we win easily, that there's no way. John McLaughlin told me, a lot of people told me that. But when they rig it or cheat, there's not a lot you're going to do about that other than you have to stop it. Now we have to stop it second time. Nobody thought a thing like that could ever happen. We like to think of our country as not being a third world country. But we are in many ways a third world country. When you look at our airports where flights are being delayed 4 days, where people are pitching tents in an airport because their flight is so, it's never going to even happen. We've never had problems like this. What you're seeing in the last 2 years, we've never seen anything like it. And we become like, we are a failing nation. Well, we've become a third world nation in many ways. Our elections are third world, in my opinion. Our airports are being run so badly. It's so badly. It's not even conceivable. People go. The other night, I had somebody going to the airport, and they called up 2 days later to tell me that they've never gotten out. I said, but where are you? Still at the airport. And it was like 2 days before. And this is common now, and it shouldn't be happening.
Is there anything tactically, 2016, you came up with all this stuff. Well, I'm going to do a rally. No one had done what you did. You rewrote the playbook. Knowing what you know now, with all these committed folks coming to your rallies, are you going to utilize them different? Are you going to do anything different tactically, go to different places in the rallies? Is it recapturing 2016, or is it learning lessons maybe from the last 2 and saying, I'm going to tweak some of this as I head into 2024?
Well, the interesting part, it's a great question, but the interesting part is that I did much better in 2020. We got many more votes. And if somebody would have said he was going to get 75 million approximately votes, and it could have been much more than that because nobody really knows, because when you look at these ballots, nobody knows what's going on. But when you look at even by their numbers, if you looked at 75 million votes, you said you did so incredibly. I remember somebody at the New York Times said, what was the difference? I said, well, the difference is we did much better the second time, which is true. We got many more votes. It's very simple. We got many more votes, millions and millions of more votes. I think the big thing we have to do is stop the cheating. We have to stop the fraud, stop the cheating. What's going on? When you saw what happened with the FBI and Twitter the other day, 2 weeks ago, where Twitter wouldn't put out truth. They wouldn't put out fact. They wouldn't put out corruption. They wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't do it. And McLaughlin and pollsters say, I guess I heard the number 17%. It made a 17-point difference by having that happen. That's fraud. That's voter fraud. That's no different, I think, than stuffing the ballot boxes.
Max, how many, we met with a bunch of these front row Joes this morning. How far did some of these guys drive?
We had people who came overnight, who drove for 15 hours with 1 hour to stop to put flags up outside Mar-a-Lago.
That's so incredible. I saw them here actually on Super Bowl Sunday. I saw them, they were all over. I mean, there. And sometimes if I know they're there, we'll send them drinks, not alcohol.
I'm sure they'd like that too.
Did you think that when you went into politics that the movement would be like this?
It's become a movement the likes of which almost no country has ever seen, but certainly this country has never seen anything like it.
There were people today, we met with them this morning. They're holding flags right down the road. One, I said, how many rallies have you been to? 56, one was 60. And they're literally here solely to put flags up to get support for you, right outside.
I've met people who've given up their jobs, who that's all they do. They organize the next rally, they organize the group, the Front Row Joes, and then they go to the next rally and they spend their lives. That's what they do now.
Well, they're great people and they have fun doing it because they have fun sticking up for the country. They don't want to see their cities burned down. They don't want to see Antifa and BLM and all of this that takes place. And then the patriots, they go after the patriots. They go after people that love our country. I mean, to a large, large extent, that are treated so unfairly. No, these are amazing men and women. And our country is in many ways protected by people like this.
I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you, Mr. President.
If you might want to leave that the way you have this, the way you had that dialogue.
Yeah, I mean,
you had that beautiful voice coming from the background, and you talking back. Do you ever do that? Do you ever leave that?
you
You may look at it. I mean, you may look at it. It's very nice, actually. I thought. I don't know.
Max has been. She's the one. Yeah.
No, no. It's very interesting.
But she's been the one traveling the country, going with them to from their house to the rally.
Wow.
It's just to capture this because it's never going to happen again. And that's the thing. And that's why we want to document this because what you've done, no one's going to do again. And there are people who've given up their jobs. I mean, they literally were driving from Indiana?
Somebody came from Indiana and Tennessee last night.
They're just...
drove overnight to camp outside.
So I have friends that are very, very successful people, and they can't believe that I can get up in some ways, oftentimes get up on a stage and many times a week, when we get it rolling. Look, just before the election, I was doing 5 and 6 a day. And these are big rallies. These are massive rallies. They can't believe I could do it. They say, how do you do that? Some of them have stage fright. One told me he has stage fright. I said, you shouldn't be a politician. I don't have to worry about you as a politician. But they actually asked me, and I said, it's a strange thing. You get up there, there's so much love in that arena or that airport or wherever we're doing these big rallies. I mean, we went to Arizona. We went to a few of them in a row. I was saying, the love is so incredible. It's really easy to do. It doesn't make sense, but there's such love out there. Every word you say, they're cheering and they just want what's good for the country. And it's easy to do. And I understand. I have friends, they say, if I had to do that, I wouldn't sleep for 6 months. If somebody told me, and don't forget, that's the rally, but then you have all the television and all the coverage. And you also know that if you make one slight mistake, just a mispronunciation of a word, it's going to be headlined because they'll talk about that, but they won't talk about Afghanistan and the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. So much. But it's really an honor to do it. Never happened in this country before. I said before, they talk about Bernie Sanders with 2,000 people. What a big crowd, what a big crowd. We get 88,000 people, 55,000. We get crowds like nobody's ever gotten before, and they don't want to talk about it. They just don't want to talk about it. So it's a great honor. I will tell you, it's a great honor, and it's an honor to be seeing you do so well because you were there right at the beginning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Like I said, this has been a 2-year labor of love. You will not be disappointed. I hope you have time to go to salemnow.com right now. Check it out. There are 2 episodes. One's about 27 minutes. The other one's 30. Again, you hear so many great takes behind the scenes. And you get to know, you saw the trailer. You get to meet the Front Row Joes. Getting to meet them, okay. But you want to understand what makes these guys tick. Think about this. In the documentary, one of these guys talks about he spends between $500 and $1,500 a rally. Over $50,000 a year going to rallies. Why? It's Trump. And you heard Trump in the documentary talk about the fact that it's like going to see the Mona Lisa or a rock band. He's right. Think about it. If you're the fan of a band, the playlist, the set list is generally the same, right? But it's that experience. You know, the crowd's going to be different. Maybe they throw in something a little, an anecdote or a story that they didn't do the last time. But you appreciate the music and the tone. And he talks about it. There's only so many issues that I can talk about. Try to make it a little different. Sometimes there's a candidate that's different. But he gets it. You want to check this out if you're a Trump supporter. And like I said, even if you know a Trump hater, send it to them. Say, hey, I know you hate on us all the time. Check out who these people are that make up this movement. Do you think Joe Biden has this? Not even Barack Obama. Obama people were excited about. I'll give him that. He was the first black president. You do interviews with people, especially black Americans, they'll talk about the fact that they were inspired by Barack Obama. They were excited to see us break the color barrier. I get that. But you didn't see the same movement where they're going from rally to rally to rally, treating it like some kind of festival. They do that with Trump. And you will hear a compelling story. I'm not going to give it away. By Rick Frazier, one of the lead Front Row Joes, one of the founders of it, who tells a story about his family. And I'll stop at that. Just say it's about his family. That is moving. It's tear-jerking. But he talks about why Trump inspired him to continue to go out and fight. And it's also about how Trump treats them. He goes out on the road with these guys and, they go out on the road for him, but then he acknowledges them. He invited them to Mar-a-Lago for his kickoff and how special that means to them. We engaged in some unbelievable lengthy conversations with these folks because I wanted to know what it was like for them. You hear about how some families think that people are nuts. They're like, what do you mean? You're going off to a rally again? Didn't you go to one last week? I will tell you, you will meet several of these Front Row Joes. And each one of them has their own unique story. But they talk about how this movement has made them a family. They didn't know each other before. And through different events and circumstances, they meet each other. They've traveled together. They've stayed at each other's houses. A couple of these guys are making a living selling merchandise, right? They Trump hats, Trump shirts, novelties. It's amazing. And I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't look it, do I? But since 1994 was my first campaign, Contract with America year, by the way. Pretty amazing year to come up in politics. Newt Gingrich, talk about that in my first book, The Briefing, if you're ever interested. But this is a movement, the likes of which I don't think we'll see again. And one of the things that I think is important is most of the media will never interact with these folks. They don't care. They're back in the pen that Trump points to them, as you know. They're not going to interact with these folks. So I wanted to bring it to people so that everybody could see them. And maybe you haven't been to a Trump rally. You will get to see that. And why. I think it's so important to do this. And anyway, I'm excited about this. I hope that you will take the time to watch these two things at salemnow.com. Like I said, 2 episodes. It's great to do this. You will, I think, have a different understanding of Trump and what makes him tick. Because as you heard in that interview with him, I don't think he fully expected it and appreciated it. But then the big question I ask at the end, I'll be interested to see what you think. And leave your comments. We'll see, in the comments section or email me. But the big question that I also want to answer is, where does it go from here? Right? I think Trump's going to win. I think most of you think Trump's going to win. The polling shows that Trump's going to win. But what happens? You will see Bannon has a theory that he talks about in episode 2. And I get it. They will be actively involved in a Trump 2024 second administration, helping to push the grassroots to support his policies. But in 2028, when Trump's not on the ballot, where does the movement go? I really sought out to answer that question. It's not easy, is it? You'll hear several different answers because there isn't a right one. We don't know. And that's what I'm intrigued by. Where does it go? I don't think any of us knows. One of the reporters in there says, maybe it's an adult child. Like Don has been out there, Don Jr. There's a possibility. If Don were to say, I'm in, I think a lot of it would move to Don Jr. But does one of these other candidates that he's considering for vice president or somebody else kind of come up? Think about Elise Stefanik. What has changed in 4 years in terms of her political trajectory? Who's the next person that becomes the Trump star? The heir to the throne? Maybe someone, maybe no one. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting question to ask, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Is it going to be one of the kids? If it is, I think it's got to be Don. No offense, but Eric's been focused like a laser on business and the golf tournaments and growing the real estate empire. Ivanka hasn't been, I don't think this was ever her movement, right? She wanted to help her father. Maybe Barron, who knows? The kid's getting super big and maybe that's the answer. We don't even see that coming. I doubt it, but who knows? Still a little young and obviously can't run for president. But I don't know. I think Don's gotten a taste of it. He's really good at it. He resonates with the base. Maybe it's him. But I also think there's a lot of these folks who've been waiting their turn who are saying, okay, I get it. I can't compete with the Trump movement. 2028, he's not going to be on the ballot. I'm going to take my shot then. Does it splinter? I don't know. Again, there's a lot of interesting questions. So here's what I would ask. Please, you can go to frontrowjoes.movie. I know we're trained to go to .com, but interestingly, they have things now, .this, .that. And so I bought .movie. That's how cool. You can see the trailer again there, but you can also click right through to salemnow.com, and both episodes are at salemnow.com, and check it out. And then do me a favor, just like you've done with the show. And I really do appreciate everything you've done with the show. Continue to share it. Just send the link to friends and say, you're going to want to watch this. It's 2 episodes. All in, it's less than an hour. Both episodes. One's 27, one's 30. You're out in an hour, right? You'll probably watch it over and over again. I know I have. It's been so cool. But like I said, you'll see some familiar faces too. You get Bannon's take, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mercedes, some of the people that you've gotten used to, and you'll hear their take. So go to frontrowjoes.movie or salemnow.com. Check it out. Share it with your friends. We'll see you back here. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for everything you do for the show. Continue to subscribe and hit those notification buttons. I don't know. At some point soon, I'll do another live. We'll get some chat back and forth about this movie. I do want to see your comments in the comment section, though, in YouTube and Rumble, and find out what you think. Obviously, you can email us. Continue to hit that subscribe button. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you can go. Love all the support you're giving us. Thank you. We'll see you back here next time on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.